I think we feel like we're almost at a boiling point when it comes to some of the things that are going on in the world at the moment.
Yep.
You've just mentioned China and Taiwan.
Yep.
The two other main areas I would say would probably be obviously what's going on in Israel at the moment.
Yep.
Between Iran.
Yep.
You have very specialist knowledge in the country of Iran that we'll talk
Yep.
about soon.
Yep.
And Russia and Ukraine.
Yep.
Do you think the two nearer situations geographically have woken up the population in the West to the fact that nuclear war is yet again a threat? And do you think the population, like we've got Max and Eli here with us today, our families, the people that we know, do you think they even think about it? Do you think the general population know?
I think they have a sense, right? I mean, there was a vote a week or two back in the in the first committee of the UN General Assembly, which was a vote about whether to put resources into a study to look at the effects of nuclear war, because it's been like several decades since the UN has done this. And the Brits were the only ones alongside France and the Russian Federation to vote against that motion. And the reason...
I thought you were going to say we voted for it. And then you said,
No.
would we vote with the Russian Federation?
Yes, we
voted against it.
We voted against it
Okay,
with the
great.
Russians and the French. Even the Americans abstained, right? And the Chinese voted in favour. and the explanation was, everybody knows that nuclear war is bad. We don't need more studies. I mean, which to me is extraordinary because...
That is extraordinary. I mean,
Yeah.
I was looking at what this is from your report.
Yeah.
An opinion poll on nuclear winter awareness released by researchers from the Centre of a Study of Existential Risk at University Cambridge suggests that a low public awareness of likely global winter climate effects from mass nuclear detonations, yet a strong reluctance to support nuclear retaliation in response to a fictional Russian nuclear attack on Ukraine. But the problem to not fund more research like that, I can only think the result of that would be the fact that populations are less aware of what a nuclear winter would mean, and therefore they cannot put pressure on their governments to do the right thing in the potential escalations that we're seeing at the moment in Israel and in Ukraine.
Yeah, correct. So my position on this is, so I do come to this with a particular bias and a perspective. I want to get rid of these nuclear weapons, right? I wear that on my sleeve. But I am also spending a lot of my time with people who believe passionately in nuclear deterrence. And if we didn't have these nuclear weapons, we would slide into conflicts even more than we do already. And that those conflicts would spiral further out of control. And that, there's a strong case for saying that. And I think that most people in this country and across the world share this confusion because they would rather these weapons didn't exist. And on the same time, there's fear that if they don't exist, and certainly if they've got them and we don't, then we are subject to all sorts of blackmail. So I think the perception of most people, and I would say I would include the politicians in this, and I would include most of the officials, the perception is, wish we weren't here, but we are, and we're trapped. And I think that the principal feeling here is there's not a great deal I can do about it. Nobody feels they're in control of this. It's like there's an inevitability to the trap that we're in. And many of the existential risks that we study at Cambridge are very similar in that respect. It's like it feels like there is no alternative because it feels so bloody complex, so difficult to get your head round. And that's for people that spend their time doing it. So if you've got no time, if you're busy trying to,
it's best just not think about it.
It is. Yeah. If you don't know, if you've got a job to do, if you've got your role to do, or if you're tearing your hair out trying to find money for the next bill, how the hell can you put time into thinking about nuclear war? And what's the point? So I totally understand why people would want to go, I don't want to think about it. The trouble is that everybody's doing that. Those that are responsible for these systems, they are playing the war games, they are thinking about it, they are thinking about the consequences. I think most of them understand it's really, really bad if it goes bad, But I don't think they have a sense of the scale of it. And I also would really contest this idea that just because it's really, really complex doesn't mean there aren't things we can't do to make it better. And that's been my effort has been to look at really pragmatic, realistic ways of making it better.
I'm going to ask you a question that you might not want to answer.
That's all right, no.
Okay, so it's 1945.
I was in Moscow in April this year. We're in the middle of a war.
The war is escalating.
There are very few Brits or Americans going to Russia. Between them, they have 75 to 80,000 nuclear warheads.
Let's suppose that Russia launched a large nuclear strike against the UK. Would we get a text message on our phone?